What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Southeastern 14, another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. I am Brian. He is Jay. We differed twice last week. You prevailed in both instances. What's going on?
Not much, brother. They had a big story on it here in the Chattanooga local news. The news feed started. Blind squirrel finds a nut. Film at 11. So that's where we are. I guess what were the two? I had Tennessee covering in a tug of war that could have gone either way. And what was the other one?
That pimp slap Georgia gave my Gators.
Oh, yes. Well,
yes. Well, yeah, Kentucky, Tennessee could have gone either way, but the pimp slap was all you for sure. All right, before we break down this week's slate, the talk of college football is Jim Harbaugh and Michigan and Connor Stallions.
All right, that is a wonderful porn name. Connor Stallions is, I know Costanza in Seinfeld famously said his porn name would be Buck Naked, and that's great too. But Connor Stallions, come on. Yes. How is some guy not with like some big bushy mustache trying to tippy-toe up to some overly enhanced young lady and go, I'm Connor Stallions.
It's like saying I'm Dirk Diggler. I love it. I love it. So I think that, but I thought Deflategate and Spygate were much ado about nothing. I think it's being blown way out of proportion. But if they're going to this great extent for this, what else are they doing?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question, because I think a lot of times we don't know a whole lot of the inner workings on a lot of these places, especially with, you and I, when we worked together 2 decades ago at the Marietta Daily Journal, think of the great access that we got back then on events that we covered compared to what media folks get now. And in some ways, if these are the things we're learning about Harbaugh and scouting and all these things, because none of the big coaches are going to come out and bash this, because they're trying to steal every sign they can steal too. This is not about sign stealing as much as it is blatantly ignoring the rules that are in place and what we know that they are blatantly ignoring. Because you go a step further, and I think in a lot of these instances, the cockroach rule applies. So if you see one cockroach going across your kitchen floor, you're going to have 25 to 50 in the basement somewhere. So if we know Michigan and Connor Stallions is out there running around doing this stuff on the Central Michigan sideline to beat Michigan State, who sucks, and it gives us a great time to talk about Jim McElwain and
the swamp donkey.
Hey, his love for deep sea fishing and sharks.
I call him the swamp donkey, and he wanted out of Gainesville, so he lied that he was getting death threats. So whatever he was saying at the podium after some action Tuesday night, I don't buy any of it. I don't buy it.
I know you don't. There are two types of Florida coaches: guys that you would give a kidney and guys that you're going to hit with your car. Jim McElwain in the latter. So, it's all fine and good. Hey, Harbaugh, steal all your signs. Wear your khakis. Be the guy who tells your kids to sprint house to house on Halloween so they can get the most candy. Hustle back home, change your costume, go get more candy. I appreciate your overachieving nature. You are that guy. But the things you're doing before you go become the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, come on, man.
Right.
But you forever get to say you employed Connor Stallions.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. So, all right. That story will continue to develop. Again, I don't think the sign stealing is that big a deal. And by the way, aren't you in preventative mode from having your signs to be stolen every week anyway? Tighten up and get better on that. Because you need to mess them up. Like, have them thinking it's going to, and so if they're communicating to their defense, oh, this is a run, well, you make sure it's a pass, and then you really
Well,
mess them up.
that's what TCU did, and Michigan couldn't stop them. There was a story that came out last week. I think it was AAP who wrote that TCU flipped every one of their signs, and Michigan couldn't stop them with a handgun. So
what TCU score? 58.
Yeah, I mean, that was. Then the next week they got all of a 7 against Georgia because Georgia didn't really give a damn what their signs were. They said, we got a whole bunch of Jimmys and Joes that are going to put you in a trash can and roll you down a hill.
Yeah, I was mistaken. It was only 51 TCU scored there. But yeah, so let's say that they mixed their stuff up, and that's why, or played a role in maybe Michigan cost himself a national title. Maybe. Well, they would have lost to Georgia, but
Georgia team, hell yeah, they would.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe not this year. We shall see. And speaking of the CFP rankings, the first poll released, I'll just go down some of it. So we got number 1 Ohio State, 2 Georgia, 3 Michigan, 4 FSU, 5 Washington, 6 Oregon, Texas 7, Bama 8, Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss 10, PSU 11, Mizzou 12, Louisville 13, and LSU 14. And the Vols are at 17, and that rounds out the SEC. Any thoughts there?
Two big thoughts. One, it's kind of a testament to kind of the down year that it is across the SEC. I mean, Georgia's still elite. I think Alabama's very good. I don't think they're up to Alabama's normal standards. This is one of the first times that I can remember that the SEC only has one in the top 7. But here's my question for you. They have 4 you named in the top 14 with Georgia, Alabama at 8, Missouri at 12, and LSU at 14. The SEC champion gets in the playoff just out of pedigree, right? Even if it's LSU.
5 in the top 14. Am I counting right? Ole Miss 2.
Oh, I forgot about Ole Miss.
3. LSU 14.
The SEC champion, even with 2 losses, punches a ticket to the playoff, right?
What if it's LSU and it's come down? What if it comes down to LSU and FSU? And
that's a completely fair question. Or Alabama and Texas,
right,
battling for 4, because these are the scenarios. Georgia is. I do think Alabama, even with the loss to Texas, controls its own fate. Alabama wins out, which would be a win over Georgia in Atlanta, and they're going to get in. They're going to hop Texas, and they're going to say that was a September game, and they were young, and blah, 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 and Texas isn't as good because Quinn Ewers isn't playing, and blah, 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 and they don't want to make Nick Saban mad. So
I think Texas is going to lose again regardless and make that a moot point, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine because you're probably right. So I think only really, you know what's crazy? And we're going to talk, this will springboard us into the games. Missouri controls its destiny.
100%. 100%.
If Missouri wins out, that'll be a win Saturday in Athens, which will be the best win in college football.
I mean, let's say they win in Athens. I mean, are they number 5 next week, or are they even better?
Well, they hop Oregon as the top 1 loss team.
Right, and let's also think of it from this standpoint. Their only loss is LSU, so LSU beating Bama would help them too. So they win at Georgia, LSU wins at Bama. There's no way they're not in top 5.
Well, right? As long as they're And
they beat K-State. Let's say K-State beats Texas too. I mean, we're asking for
finish 10-2.
Yeah, but I mean, like, let's say just this week, K-State wins at Texas, LSU wins at Bama, Missouri wins at Georgia. I think they're top 4 actually, if all 3 of those things happen, because that just boosts Mizzou will have a win over K-State, a quality lone defeat with LSU. And the best win of the year at Georgia.
Now, as we break down the Georgia game, Georgia's going to stomp a mud hole in them.
Oh, we do differ this week then. We do have one we differ on. So, yeah, again, you went 2-0 on the differing picks last week. All right, well, tell us why you like Georgia.
I like Georgia for a multitude of reasons. One, Ladd McConkey is a difference maker on the perimeter with his speed. He grew up playing here, and he has gone to Georgia and superseded anything that – I mean, he was a great kid and a great high school player in our coverage area, but he has gone there and made himself into an NFL player. I mean, that guy I had somebody text me on Saturday, you're going to see Ladd McConkey have like an 8-year NFL career, and you're going to go, wait, how, A, does that guy not play for the Patriots? And B, how does that guy not go to Clemson? Because they have like cornered the market on those really shifty slot white dude wide receivers.
Yes, but they have.
I think my favorite bet in this game is over 54.5.
Me too.
But I also think my second favorite bet in the game is over 54.5, the number of times Kirby Smart has reminded his Georgia Bulldogs that they were number 2 in the poll, despite the fact that they have not lost since Clinton was running for president or whenever it was. But it's been a while. And it's been every bit that long since they've lost in Athens. So I think that team is he's the best. He's better than Saban at galvanizing any of the most smallest perceived slights of Florida thinks they can win. And then everybody gets all frothy at the mouth and they come out and win by 30. And they don't believe in you. They only got you number 2. I mean, for God's sakes, there was a narrative in this in across the South that Georgia fans were upset that people weren't believing in them with a Vegas over-under of 11.5.
Right.
I mean, Vegas had said, okay, the only thing that's going to happen is you may lose one game. And everybody's going, nobody believes in us. Nobody believes in us.
Right.
It's us against the world. Kirby has put in a culture there that they want to knife fight everybody. And it's great. It's a great time to be a Georgia fan. And I'm an Auburn fan, married to a Georgia grad. You're a Florida grad. You hate Georgia. I get it. But dear God, man, they are a machine right now.
I've never hated Georgia until the last 5 years. They didn't whoop me enough. They didn't whoop me enough for decades. But I hate them now. Yes. And, this is great. I love – because you love trivia. I love trivia. All right. When was the last time Georgia lost between those hedges? I can give you some hints. You let me know if you want.
Tennessee comeback?
Oh, the Hail Mary when Butch Jones had the worst celebration ever? Nope.
Okay.
Let me know if you want what hints you want, or when you want one hint.
I'll take one hint.
All right. I don't know if just saying what division the team came from is that good of a hint, but it eliminates Florida, and we've eliminated Tennessee, so it's an SEC East team whose coach is no longer there.
South Carolina beat them.
How about them Gamecocks?
South Carolina beat them.
Israel Mukuamu had 3 picks on Aaron. Was it Aaron Murray? No, not Aaron Murray. It was it was Fromm. In 2019, Israel Mukuamu had 3 picks, 1 pick six, and they won in double overtime. And they were on their 3rd string quarterback.
Didn't Rodrigo Blankenship miss like 72 field goals?
I think he did. And hey, he was a hell of a kicker, and he did miss a field goal.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, a kicker whose dad is talking crap in the media. That's a whole different kettle of fish there.
Well, Baker Mayfield told him at training camp, I guess he was in Buck's training camp, because he hit that 55-yarder before halftime to cut Oklahoma's lead out in the Rose Bowl to 14. I saw the clip. He saw him. He goes, "I still hate you." Mayfield said that to him.
Well, I love the over in this game because and we've talked multiple times. The Cook kid at Missouri can play.
Woo.
I mean, he can really play. But I think that place is fired up. I think that place is looking – I also think this is one of those games that Kirby wants to make certain somebody doesn't think they're a pretender to what he's building in the East.
Sure.
And that's why I think they cover – what's the numbers? It's still 17?
No, it's 15 to 15.5. But let me.
I think they win 3 touchdowns. But my favorite play in the game is assuredly the over 54.
Oh no, the flipping over is shot up to 56 or 56.5. So I'm in at 54.5, but I'm not as in as much as I wanted to be. Oh man,
that 56 threshold, man, oh man, that'll cash you some checks. 56 is like 3. Have you noticed that?
It's like 3, 7, and 10. Yeah, on a side, 100%. Yeah. So I am like you in that the over is my favorite play. And part of that is because I'm not sure if Georgia has cranked it up a level or two because now it's time to go, or if my Gators just suck that bad. I suspect it's a little bit of both. But so anyway, as for the over, it has hit in 5 straight games for Georgia. 63, 64, 57, 70, and 47. 47 being what would stay under this current total. That was the Auburn game. The over 5-1 in Missouri's last 6. We talked about the outlier was the South Carolina. Leggett got hurt, 6 straight field goals, all that. So the combined scores for Mizzou in those 5 straight overs before the under against South Carolina have been 57, 61, 59, 88, and 59. And, Cook and Beck both playing great. Beck 14-4 TD INT ratio, 3 rushing touchdowns, second in the SEC in passing yards. Cook third in the SEC in passing yards and touchdown passes with 15. Only 3 INTs and 5 rushing touchdowns. Mizzou has scored 34, 38, 39, 38, and 34 in its last 5. All right. Now for the Missouri part of it. So Missouri in its last 19 games, they have lost by more than 10 only once. That was at Tennessee last year. And that was actually a pretty close game, like mid-third quarter. Then the Vols hit like a half dozen huge chunk plays. But and look, part of it I think is that Missouri's confident. And they've had 2 weeks to prepare. And Georgia's coming off a rivalry game. And Missouri's confident because they had 3 separate double-digit leads on UGA last year. And Georgia did not take its first lead until there was 4:03 remaining in that game. And you could make a good argument Missouri coulda, woulda, shoulda been, or currently be 8-0. So I'm on Missouri. Jay's on Georgia, but we both like the over better. But look, if it keeps going higher, if it gets to 56.5, which it already is at circa, you probably want to buy that half point to 56, being a multiple of 7, a key number on a total. But hopefully you're already in at a better number, like I know I am. Although I'm a little pissed I didn't get more on it because I didn't suspect this move. All right, next, let's go. Well, we got a noon start in Gainesville. This is my stay away game. Stay away from this game.
I love this game.
Okay.
I love this game.
Did you know Florida lost its leading tackler yesterday to a season-ending?
I also know that Arkansas scored 3 points against Mississippi State at home.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah, I don't really have much. Right now, it's looking like 5.5 at most books, but which is even better for you because it was 6.5 yesterday. There's still a couple of 6s out there. Total of 50.5, which I certainly don't want anything to do with that total.
No. Especially 2 teams that can run into the turnover bug. I mean, and you're talking about short fields, you're talking about easy opportunities, and 2 teams that can get as constipated as a fat kid on Thanksgiving. So, I mean, the total is a complete stay away. I love the Gators in this spot. One, you and I pay a whole lot of attention to this. I don't know how much you and I have talked about it, either on air or off. I love 12 o'clock starts for Eastern time zone teams welcoming a Central time zone team for the noon kick. They show up sleepy. They aren't really ready to play. And here's the other thing. KJ Jefferson and a whole lot of the Arkansas is starting to have business decision defections. We do not know. The disappointment in that locker room is immense. Florida has not had a good Florida year. Still things to play for.
I can confirm that, by the way.
There's still things to play for. A decent bowl game. Graham Who's His Britches is actually playing better than he did to start the year. There are young kids who are buying into the program. I don't even know if the Arkansas kids know if Sam Pittman's going to be there long term. This game feels like a 2-touchdown Florida win for me, and if not more. This is just one of those that everything points to Florida in everything I like to look to, that is, be it statistical, be it emotional, be it even time zonal. And yes, I just made up a word in zonal.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate. Arkansas is in its first advantageous spot of the year. They have had the 2 weeks to prepare. That they had that gauntlet at LSU, A&M in Arlington, at Ole Miss, at Bama. They had to get on an airplane 4 weeks in a row. And even when they got home to the Mississippi State game, and I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but even when they got home for that game, Mississippi State had 2 weeks to prepare. So this time they get Florida coming off a rivalry game, and their Arkansas actually is the one with 2 weeks to prepare. They fired Dan Enos, so going to have a different ball play caller. And I'll throw out this other little wrinkle that's probably not that big of a deal, but when I saw it on Twitter, it was either late spring or early summer, and I was already quite agitated with Sunbelt William. And it was that we were going to wear black uniforms, black on black, for the first time ever against Arkansas this coming Saturday. And in my mind, I'm thinking Arkansas and Florida, not bowl eligible yet, and they're not. And I'm thinking old school Jefferson Pilot game, noon Eastern,
Right.
and Gainesville, Florida on November 4th. If the weather's right, still hot as hell. And
always hot.
I've already pulled up weather.com. And we have a high of 80 degrees, mostly sunny skies. So some people might not put much thought into that, but the Gators are wearing all black helmets, jerseys, pants, and it's going to be 80 degrees, and 80 degrees in Gainesville is 90 degrees everywhere else. So just throwing that out there, just playing devil's advocate. The game's a pass for me. All right, now for my favorite play of the week. It's also a noon Eastern game. On Sunday, when I was doing my numbers, I wrote down Ole Miss -7 at home to A&M, and we've got a 3-point line, or at least, yes, we still have a 3-point line. The total is 54. So Ole Miss undefeated in 5 home games this year, 4-1 against the spread. The lone non-cover, they were laying double digits and beat Arkansas by 7. And on the flip side, A&M 0-2, both straight up in ATS on the road. And in fact, Jimbo and company have lost 8 in a row on the road. I'm not sure about the against the spread, but just lost outright at 8 in a row. It actually started in a 29-19 loss in Oxford in 2021. And this is another stat that is just straight up not against the spread. Kiffin is now 19-2 in his last 21 home games at Ole Miss. The lone defeats by 8 combined points to Alabama and Mississippi State last year. I think Ole Miss has the better head coach, the better quarterback. They are at home. They have all the motivation in the world to play for. And yeah, I don't think I need any more reasoning to be on the Rebels -3. What about you?
No. Oh, I love that pick. And I also really kind of have to love how Lane Kiffin is going against the mold of the Nick Sabans and the Kirby Smarts and the Dabo Sweeneys about rat poison and whatever else. Did you hear what he has said about A&M this week?
Defensive line, they're very, 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 very great.
Well, when asked about being in the top 10, Kiffin said it's kind of neat, and then went on to say, especially as a program like us at Ole Miss going against a program like theirs that you would think would be in the top 10 every year with their roster and the way they pay their players. Since Jimbo, since adding that number 1 recruiting class, A&M, what was that, 2022? A&M is 10-10. Hey, and Kiffin was quick to say on the SEC media conference that Texas A&M is assuredly the most talented, and he probably meant to say the most expensive, but he said it's the most talented 5-3 team ever, which is a classic Spurrier slap to the face.
Yes.
You could so hear Spurrier saying that about Ray Goof's Georgia teams. Well, they got a bunch of stars in the locker room. That's one of the best 5-3 teams I've ever seen.
He would always say this about Ray Goff. Georgia's number 1 on signing day every year, but not come Halloween. Not Halloween time.
Every year. Well, Ole Miss is the play. I love that play. We're both on the same page, and I think what you put succinctly and accurately: better coach, better quarterback, at home, more motivation.
Boom. There we go. I think we can move on to the next. Okay, so I haven't played this one yet, but it is a lean. And to be honest, I just have gotten sidetracked with a bunch of stuff all morning, and haven't even had a chance to do a deep dive. But I lean Jacksonville State at South Carolina. Jacksonville State 7-2 straight up, 6-2-1 ATS. They've been on the road 4 times, 3-1 straight up, 2-1-1 ATS. South Carolina 2-6 straight up, 4-4 ATS. This is a noon Eastern kick, and let's see. At last look, it was 15 and a half. I'm trying to find it. Here it is. 15 and a half and 55 at most spots. South Carolina's lost 4 in a row. 1-3 ATS did cover at A&M last week, but they're really banged up. Leggett played last week, but he had I think he had 3 catches, 20 yards. And his ankle, it's an ankle. I still don't think he's 100%. There and now Trey Knox. So obviously they've been without Juice Wells most of the year. He's still not back. So at least Rattlers had Xavier Leggett and Trey Knox. Now Trey Knox got banged up last week. He's questionable, and I still don't think Leggett's 100%. And this Jacksonville State team, who I'm sure many of you, especially the ones watching this that like to gamble, y'all probably watched some of these midweek games. He's got a lot of speed. Now, they're not going to be as obviously the size and the trenches, and South Carolina will have advantages there. Although those are the weak spots of South Carolina's team, especially the O-line. So I'm a heavy lean to Jack State. Are probably going to be on them. Any thoughts there? And also, I like R-Rod's defensive coordinator. I like him. I just think he gets a lot out of what he has to work with.
Well, one, Jacksonville State's always going to have 2 guys on their roster who are NFL dudes, and they may not be able to read. I know some kids from high school who got into Jacksonville State, and they didn't even take the SAT. And that is a true story. And that's fine, well, and good. God bless you. Everybody needs a skill, a trade. Knock yourself silly. I love this. May be my single favorite player of the week is Jacksonville State. One, you mentioned everybody beat up. Two, early kick at home, a grumbling fan base. Let Jacksonville State score that first touchdown, and you're going to hear boos in Bryce Williams, right? And then everybody gets tense. Do I think it may South Carolina with athletes and especially an NFL QB1 figures out a way to win this thing 31-27? Probably. But at 15.5, I mean, I looked at it honestly.
You were thinking money line.
I was exploring a taste at plus 500 on the money line. I mean,
I'm not against it.
Jacksonville State, hey, South Carolina gives up 33 points a game. Bottom 20 in the country. Jacksonville State, you were talking about advantages in the trenches. Jacksonville State is one of the top 15 rushing offenses in the country. And that travels. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be trying to complete passes and throw against better athletes.
Number 8 in the country in rushing yards.
And so that's going to be a downhill crew that is going to say, hey, they're paying us $1 million to show up here thinking they're going to kick our ass. You know what? Let's take their $1 million and return the favor. And I'm saying this as an Auburn grad who about 8 years ago realized Auburn got lucky to escape Jacksonville State at home in Jordan-Hare.
I was hoping I was going to be able to back, the fact that Jack State is 8th in the nation in rushing yards by throwing out that South Carolina is one of the worst run defenses in the country. It's actually the pass defense for South Carolina that's ranked 130 of 133 FBS teams. And they still are 117 in total defense, 109 in scoring D, but they are 58 in run defense. So just stats. We both like Jacksonville State. I'm just throwing out the numbers. All right. Let's move on, and let's next go. If we're going by time of day, I think we need to do UConn at Tennessee. Pass. Yeah, I passed too, actually. So let's just go ahead and skip it.
I mean, really? Does anybody want an in-depth breakdown of the Huskies? I mean, hey, I'll tell you what. If this was Gino Auriemma coming to play Pat Summitt, we'll spend 20 minutes talking about it. I don't give two rips about this game. There's a loaded college football slate on Saturday.
Yeah, we're moving on. You're right. Good call. And we'll come back to Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Auburn, Vandy if you got to pick. But let's go to the big one. LSU at Bama. All right, I'll start. I've been saying LSU is going to win this game for weeks. And I said before the season I'd like it at +7 because I think that was the number in the games of the year back then. But Mekhi Wingo being out, and now they're without 4 of their quality DBs. That has me. Don't get me wrong. I had already bet a little bit at LSU, and I did bet some Sunday night before it moved to 3. I got some 4, but at 3, I'm just going to go with the over. And we've been talking about it all year. The over is now on a 12-0 run for LSU dating back to last year, 15-1 in its last 16. LSU's offense, number 1 in the nation in total offense and scoring, 47.4 points per game, number 3 in passing yards, 13 in rushing yards. On defense, flip side, number 91 nationally in both total defense and against the pass, 85 in run defense, 77th in scoring D, even though they pitched a bagel to Army last week. So, I am going with over. And by the way, combined scores for LSU are averaging 73.9. This is a pretty high over for Alabama standards this year specifically. It matches their highest, the South Florida game that obviously went under, but way different circumstances. So I'm on the over, lean LSU on the side, but the Wingo injury and just the accumulation of injuries in the secondary have me kind of shying away from that, and so most of my coin is on the over. What say you?
I am spot on and in step with your analysis. Primarily in both directions. One, love the over, and you know what? Have consistently on a week in week out basis. I've made a couple of rent checks on LSU over and USC over all year long, and we've talked about it. I mean, we've talked about dance with who brung you. And before I get back to this, I'm on USC Washington over, even though it's 76.
What did it end up last week? I mean, because they got over 100, didn't they?
We got,
Or was
it was what, at 50 49?
Yeah, 99.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. It's your Florida math. I mean, Auburn
You're
math.
right.
We realized it's just a bit under 100. But
Well,
as far as Alabama LSU, Alabama's going to want to slow it down, but they're not going to be able to because Jaden Daniels is that guy. He's him. Jaden Daniels is him. And one of these teams is going to have to score 30 to win. Period. End of conversation.
Well, Jalen's going to hit deep ball. Milroe's going to hit deep balls on this defense.
Of course.
So, I mean, Alabama's not going to be able to slow it down because they're not going to be able to not score on this pathetic defense.
And which is then going to turn Jaden Daniels into he's going to turn into that the guy who was the best at the pole position video game when we were growing up, who's like shifting gears and slamming pedals and doing all those things. And you go, dang, he's played this same video game for like an hour and a half on one quarter. That's awesome.
That was me.
Jaden Daniels is him.
That was me on Gallagher. I am him on Gallagher. Greatest player ever.
Okay, great. I am so proud that you are the Gallagher GOAT.
The Gallagher GOAT.
I mean, I am really, really happy for you and your Gallagher GOATness. And the other reason I don't like the side, because I do think Jaden Daniels is him. And if forced to make a pick, I would bet LSU, but I would bet it on the money line and not and get plus 138, plus 140, whatever it is, as opposed to laying the 3. But here's the thing. I think this is going to be the loudest, most motivated Alabama home crowd. They've been spoiled by Saban's success for a long time now. This one is a truly important coin flip home game that place is going to be bonkers.
And they need to be a factor. They need to draw 4 or 5 false starts. They need every bit of the crowd to win this game. And I'm sure the fan base realizes that. Are we moving on from that one? Because we do have a lot of other stuff to get to.
Go ahead
with any more.
High on my list on a lot of games I love this week is LSU Alabama over the 60 and a half is what I saw this morning. And you're right, it is a low number by comparison to most Alabama games, especially Alabama games at home. But this LSU offense is 2019 good.
Oh, it is great. But that 2019 LSU offense is the best offense of my lifetime, and the 2020 Alabama offense is the second best.
Don't leave out 2010 Auburn now.
Ooh. How many times do you have to come back and win? 5 times? Like 3 or 4 from double digits.
Just mention them because they had the dude. You may be the Gallagher GOAT, but I am not here for any negative feedback on one Cameron Newton.
All right, Cam Newton 2010 or Joe Burrow 2019. Wow, that is a tough one-season call to make.
Yeah. Cam Newton was
Did not
one
have
of
he didn't have
3
Jamar
draft picks
Chase.
on that team.
Okay. Yes.
Who was running patterns for Joe Burrow? All right.
Just
Like
Jamar
the 2
Chase,
greatest
Harris
NFL
Marshall.
wide receivers as we're talking.
Right. Okay. You're right. Case closed. Case closed. You're right. You are correct.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go like Tebow 2008, and I
right.
still was going to take Cam Newton.
Sure. Kentucky at Mississippi State, Auburn at Vandy. You got anything?
I like Auburn Vandy to go over. I think Hugh Freeze is getting comfortable in, and that's still under 50, what I saw today. I think Hugh Freeze is getting a little more comfortable in his quarterback dichotomies, and Vandy can't stop a nosebleed. So, I mean, that's an opportunity to get well again. And you know as well as I do, when the Big Six from the SEC, the traditional SEC, that's Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, Florida, Auburn, and Alabama, when they show up in Nashville, they've got at least half the stadium. That's going to be a de facto Auburn home game.
Oh, 100%.
And those Vandy kids are about, I mean, God bless them. And there'll probably be 3 or 4 kids on that team who will end up getting jobs that I try to apply for later in life because they're really smart and superhuman beings. They're about to get punched in the face. Auburn may go over this number by itself.
Well, and that's what I was going to just briefly mention. Will Shepherd is questionable. Quincy Skinner is questionable. It looks like they might start Taylor, the young lefty, instead of Seals. And so you might be, I don't even know what Auburn's team total is, but that might be the more because, and I think Shepherd, I don't think it's an injury. I think that he's had an attitude issue. And I think that he didn't play a whole lot last week. That might have something to do with it. And he's by far their best player on the whole team, certainly from an offense.
Biblically, you're saying he's not being a good shepherd.
No. No, that is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. Yeah. As for Kentucky at Mississippi State.
No thanks.
No thanks. So let's get on to our non-SEC picks, or do we want to? Let's get you to guess the look-ahead lines in the SEC first. All right, these are from DraftKings. Florida at LSU.
13.
14. All right. Oh gosh, do I have that page up? Let's see here. I'm just trying to remember the game. Ole Miss at Georgia.
9.
13.
Ooh.
And there's also Alabama at Kentucky.
8.5.
10 at DraftKings, 9.5 at FanDuel. And finally, Tennessee at Missouri, where the last time they went to Missouri, I took Missouri like -2, and it was like 38-0 early second quarter. And I was like, this is the worst bet I've ever made in my life.
That's going to be a great spot for Tennessee.
That is
going to be a great spot because Missouri's pushing all chips in. I got to think Vegas is going to realize this. So I'm going to say 5.5. Missouri.
Which way?
5.
Which way?
Missouri.
Vols -1.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think Missouri's a better football team.
I do too. I think it should be Missouri -3, but and only 3 because of the turnaround and Tennessee getting a layup with UConn this week, and presumably getting out of there more healthy than Mizzou will get out of Athens in a 60-minute battle. Okay, let's get to our non-SEC picks. You threw out USC. Elaborate more on that one if you need to. Not that you need to. And
well, I'm on the over just because I've said as long as we've been doing this, I'm on LSU over. I am on USC over every single week. But I love Washington -3 in this spot. I love Washington. They finished 5th. out of 5 undefeated teams in the college football playoff ranking that we mentioned. Michael Penix Jr., another spotlight performance. USC, I mean, we said earlier that somebody couldn't stop a nosebleed. I mean, dear Lord, the USC defense is bad. So
didn't Cal have 48 early in the fourth quarter? Or 49
and,
or 40,
and they scored 10 against Auburn. And I know Auburn's pretty good defensively, but Cal scored 10 at home against Auburn. And you look at the scoreboard, and that was, I mean, I think they had 35 at halftime. And so, no, Washington is laying the 3. I love that play because I think USC really might pack the gear. They're no longer in the conversation to win it all. They're no longer in the conversation to win the Pac-10, Pac-12, and Washington has all those things in front of it.
Yeah, I'm not against going against that flag football defense that the Trojans throw out there every week. Certainly not. All right, let's go. For me, let's go to Stillwater. And man, Mike Gundy's doing one of his best coaching jobs ever, and that's saying a lot. So they have been a home underdog 8 times in not quite a full decade, but almost a decade. 7-1 both straight up and ATS in those 8 games. He's won outright in 7 of them, and they are on fire right now. They've won 4 in a row straight up in ATS, won by margins of at least 7. Running back Ollie Gordon's been the catalyst. The last 5 games, he has had 271, 282, 168, 136, and 121 rushing yards. He's rushed for 6 touchdowns the last 2 games for the season, 1,087 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, 7.7 yards per carry average. At home, the home dog roll. They're rolling. And I think we get a very close game. Give me Oak State +6 at last look. You got any other non-con games?
No, but I think you have to, if we're going to study trends, the market has consistently undervalued Boston College.
I've been looking at them this week.
And they are playing a Syracuse team that has nothing to play for. And Boston College has been tough, and they have fought. And you can't really put a value on a team that is playing for itself regardless of the circumstance. Now, have they had the great year? No, but
they've exceeded expectations.
Absolutely they have. And you know what? You can start preaching that in the locker room about building for next year. And can we find a way to get to a bowl game? And we beat a Georgia Tech team on the road that is now better than a lot of people thought. And okay, we've lost some tough ACC games, but and I'm also not sleeping on Virginia Tech any week because they're now 3-1 since they made the quarterback change and the quarterback got comfortable.
He's good.
He's a dude in a league that you can make some plays. So those are 2 I'm investigating, but I don't have anything other than what we've talked about.
Yeah, I agree with you on Boston College. And the only game Dino has won in November the last 3 seasons was at home against Boston College 2 years ago when Jurkovec was out injured. And
I feel like you and I are cheating on Dino because it was about 5 years ago that I put a down payment on my kid's first year tuition at Auburn with the way Syracuse was covering.
Dino and Dungy, I loved them, and they had that great season. And then the year before that, they were covering like all the time, even though they weren't necessarily winning. Okay, there was one more. Oh, I'm not against. Now I know Notre Dame lost their tight end who led them in catches and receiving yards to a season-ending injury, but I'm still not against Faden Dabo, who is just absolutely unraveling before our eyes. And I'm not against, and I don't really think NC State's that good. I don't think a whole lot of them, but I'm not against fading Miami too, especially after playing a couple of overtime games, and before that, the debacle in the Georgia Tech game. So NC State plus 5.5 against Miami, I'm not against. I'm still investigating that. And another one, I haven't made my deep dive into it to check injuries and stuff. So don't, if you're tailing me, don't just blindly tail me just because I'm saying it now. But I need to give UCF a hard look, because that Cincinnati team is not playing well right now, and UCF minus 3.5 could be a look. I'm not guaranteeing it. Last but not least, we have a spread for a Monday game in the SEC in college basketball. Georgia's playing Oregon in Las Vegas at 4:30 Eastern on Monday, and the spread is 4.5. The Ducks are favored. Any college basketball you want to throw out? Let everybody know about Jay's plays, 5 at 10, and all that good stuff.
All that stuff is available at timesfreepress.com here in Chattanooga, where I'm a columnist and do a whole lot of gambling writing. To be quite honest and forthright with our viewers, my plays have been in an absolute death spiral. I went over the last 2 weeks from up plus 96 units to like plus 78 units in the year that I've been doing this. So it has been one. You remember that old beer commercial where the guy takes the cannonball to the gut? That's what gambling has been in a daily, week to week, a day-to-day thing for me over the last handful of days. Now, my college football picks have been fine, but I think I missed every World Series game, to be quite honest. And as for the college basketball, one, you threw out the number 4.5. Love the Ducks there. Love the Ducks.
Yeah, I was thinking that was a little small.
I mean, that's low. That's a great position for them in less travel. It's great position for them in a time element. It is love the Ducks in that. But I also think it is quite unique this year that, of course, Kentucky is the third best favorite at plus 1,200 to win it all behind Kansas and Duke.
They'll probably miss the tournament.
And I think Kentucky is probably going to be picked. You want to talk about a Vegas perception odd? Kentucky being plus 1,200 and the third highest ranked favorite to win the college basketball national championship. Kentucky is probably going to be picked fifth to win the SEC.
Well, I can tell you what they're picked in my magazine right here, right now.
I mean, and now, I mean, Tennessee.
They're picked fourth. They're picked fourth in Lindy's.
They're picked third to win the national championship because of name and star power, and they're picked fourth to win the SEC.
Yeah. He's gonna. I think this is the swan song for old Cal.
See, I think that's the most interesting college basketball regular season story of the last decade plus. Is we're talking about Kentucky needs to fire a Hall of Famer, because whatever has happened since they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four, and they haven't been to a Final Four since. All of his trusted assistants have now found other places to go. He put so many eggs in that going undefeated basket that it is now evaporated to a place, and he may not get fired. He'll walk away.
Yeah,
and he'll have job offers, and both from TV and other college and NBA basketball teams before he can clean out the top drawer of his desk. He is an amazing basketball coach. That's not at dispute. But right now, it is broken, and every Kentucky fan I know knows it and doesn't want to have another year of it.
Oh, they've been done for 2 years. most Kentucky fans I know. I mean they know about the contract, and they don't even care about the number one recruiting class. I mean, they just don't care. They're tired of. And I mean, look, y'all remember how nasty it got with Tubby late in his tenure. That's just Kentucky basketball. It's like Florida football. It's like Auburn football. At the end, when it's going south, it gets nasty. And Cal knows that. And if they're not having great success in February and into March, he'll know who's going to just step aside. Don't you think?
I do. I do. And which makes that a unbelievably intriguing storyline as we get ready to head into college basketball season.
All right, last thing for me to close the show. All right, I was awful in college last week. Did I? I hope I brought up the AJ Brown, Kyle Pitts props that I've been backing over. Did I bring that up on the show
You
last
did?
week? Okay, fantastic. Because that was an easy winner on AJ last week. I've now hit that 6 weeks in a row. I've tweeted it out every time. I hope I've mentioned it on more than one show here. So I would think last week the number on AJ Brown was 88 and a half, and he went, well, and he had, I want to say 130 or so. And he's had 127 or more 6 games in a row. And I thought for sure they would put it in the 90s, if not all the way to 100. No, they've gone down. It is now 80 and one half, I guess, based on Dallas's defense. But we're all over AJ Brown's over. I also like the Eagles -3. And I looked earlier and there was not a number for Kyle Pitts' receiving yards prop, but I've hit that one 4 weeks in a row. Now, the first two were over by halftime. The last two have been 3 hour sweats, 3 hour dog cussing of Arthur Smith and his unfathomable incompetence. But they're putting this number way too low. And if it's
Especially with the quarterback change.
right, right. So I mean, I would take it all the way to 50, but I think it's going to be in the mid 30s again. So Pitts over, excuse me, on receiving yards. And we've run a little long. Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends if you enjoy the show. And obviously, the pick results haven't been where we want them, but we always let you know why we're thinking it. And if you don't agree with our reasoning, you can certainly fade us. And that would have been a good idea at times the last week or two. But if you enjoy the show, tell your friends. Make sure to subscribe to Southeastern 14. If you want to be a sponsor, contact Caroline. And that's going to do it. Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. Another edition's over, and we are out.